I always believed that family was sacred, that no matter how bad the world outside got, your family was supposed to be your shelter. But if I've learned anything lately, it's that sometimes the most dangerous people are already inside your home. You just haven't caught them red-handed yet. It started one late Sunday afternoon. The sky was moody, gray clouds stretched thin across the horizon, casting long shadows through my apartment windows. I had just gotten back from visiting my mother when I saw a notification on my phone. A bank alert. I don't usually check those right away, but something about the timing made my stomach twist. $3,500 withdrawn from your joint account. Joint account? I froze. I only had one joint account, and it was with my husband. But he was overseas on a work trip, and we had an unspoken rule. We never touched that account unless we were together. It was strictly for emergencies. I called him immediately. The call dropped twice before it finally connected. "Did you take out money?" I asked, skipping all pleasantries.
No. Why?
What happened? My heart started pounding. Someone just withdrew $3,500 from our joint account.
He paused.
I didn't authorize anything. That's when the voice in the back of my mind whispered something I didn't want to hear. Then who the hell did? I tried to calm down. Maybe it was a banking error. Or maybe someone got hold of our information. Identity theft? I drove straight to the bank. My hands were sweaty on the steering wheel. Every red light felt like a personal attack. Inside, the representative, a woman named Tara, tried to ease my nerves. But the more we talked, the more I noticed her expression change. "The transaction was made in person," she said quietly, scanning her monitor. "They had the right documents and even showed matching ID." I blinked. "In person? Where?" She printed the location. It was the same branch that my brother-in-law, Rafi, used for his business accounts. Suddenly, my entire chest turned cold.
Rafi.
My husband's brother. He was charming, overly confident, always trying to insert himself into our financial conversations. A few weeks ago, he'd even joked, "You two don't need that joint account just sitting there. Give it to me, I'll flip it." We had laughed it off. I thought it was just his usual nonsense.
But now,
I asked Tara, "Can I see the surveillance footage?" She hesitated. "Only law enforcement can access that. But I can give you the timestamp and location, and you can file a police report if you believe this was unauthorized." I stepped outside, my head spinning. Everything felt unreal. I called my husband again. "It was Rafi," I said without emotion. "I think he stole from us." There was a long silence on the line. "I'll call him," my husband finally said. "Let me handle it." But I wasn't going to let this go so easily. That night, I couldn't sleep. My mind kept replaying every moment we'd shared with Rafi. Birthday dinners, holidays, casual hangouts where he always insisted on managing the bar tab or handling payments. I remembered once catching him looking through my husband's wallet, laughing it off as just checking how broke you are. I felt sick.
Betrayed.
The next morning, I decided to go see him myself. He lived 2 streets away, too close for someone I no longer trusted. When he opened the door, he acted like nothing happened. "Hey, Bobby," he smiled. "You okay?"
I didn't waste time.
"Did you take money from our joint account?" He blinked. Just for a second. But it was enough. "What are you talking about?" $3,500. Withdrawn in person. At your branch." He frowned. "Whoa, wait. Why would I?" "I'm going to the police," I interrupted. "And I'll request the footage." His face shifted. First confusion. Then defense. Then something else. "Wait," he said, holding up his hands. "Let's not make this bigger than it needs to be." I stepped back, suddenly disgusted. "You already made it big, Rafi.
You stole from me.
You forged ID. You crossed a line that you can't uncross." And with that, I turned and walked away. But as I got into my car, my phone buzzed again. Another alert. $500 transferred from joint account to external wallet.
What?
I checked the details. It had just happened. I felt my skin crawl. That meant he still had access. He wasn't just trying to scam us once, he was planning something bigger. And I had just provoked him. Something told me this was only the beginning. The next day, I went straight to the police. They took my statement, photocopied the transaction logs, and promised to request footage from the bank's security cameras. But I could see it in their eyes. They thought it was just a family dispute, a money misunderstanding, something that would sort itself out. They didn't understand that this was deeper than money. This was calculated. It was betrayal. I changed the passwords on every account. I locked down my bank cards. I called my husband and told him we needed to freeze the joint account entirely. But the damage was already done. Over the next few days, strange things began happening. I started receiving calls from unknown numbers, automated voices asking about loans I'd supposedly applied for. One even claimed I owed $8,000 on a new credit card from a company I'd never heard of. I checked my credit report. There were 4 new inquiries, all in my name, none of them mine. That's when I knew Rafi had gone further. He hadn't just stolen once. He was trying to ruin me entirely. I confronted my husband again. "You have to stop defending him," I said firmly. "He's using our information."
Mine.
"He's applying for loans."
Cards.
"I'm being targeted." My husband, to his credit, didn't argue this time. He looked shaken. "I'll talk to my parents," he said. I sighed. "Your parents won't believe it. He's the golden child."
He was.
Always had been. Rafi could do no wrong. Even when he crashed a family car and lied about it, even when he borrowed money from relatives and never paid it back, he always had excuses, and his parents always forgave him. But this wasn't just a family squabble. It was fraud. And I wasn't going to be silent. I started documenting everything, screenshots, timestamps, even voicemails. I printed the credit reports, filed disputes with the bureaus, and submitted fraud claims for every transaction I hadn't made. Then one night, I got a knock at the door. It was Rafi, uninvited, smiling like he owned the world. "I heard you're spreading rumors," he said, stepping inside before I could stop him. I stood my ground. "They're not rumors." I filed a police report. His smile dropped. "You serious? You forged my ID. You accessed our joint account. You applied for loans in my name. What would you call it?" He shrugged. "A misunderstanding." "You're unbelievable," I whispered. "Do you even feel bad?" He laughed softly. "You think I'm scared of you? You think the cops are gonna do anything?" And that's when it hit me. He wasn't afraid. Because he believed he was untouchable. His family always covered for him. His lies had never caught up to him. He had lived a life of zero accountability, and now he thought I would crumble too. "I'm not scared," I said quietly. "But you should be." He left without another word. That same night, I received an anonymous message in my inbox. No subject line. No greeting. Just 2 lines. "You're playing a dangerous game. Stop before you regret it." I froze. Was that a threat? Had Rafi sent it? I forwarded the email to the detective handling my case. They logged it, but again, no real urgency. "Keep your doors locked," they said. "Let us know if anything escalates." Escalates? It already had. A few days later, I visited my mother-in-law. She had called, asking me to come over. Said she wanted to talk woman to woman. I should have known better. The moment I stepped into her living room, she started. "Why are you doing this to the family? Why are you trying to destroy your own brother-in-law?" I stared at her, stunned. "I'm not trying to destroy him. He did this to himself." "He told us everything," she said sharply. "That you're blaming him because you mismanaged your accounts. That you're making up stories." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Are you even listening to yourself?" "I have proof. Documentation. Police reports." But she shook her head. "Proof can be manufactured." My jaw dropped. "Do you even want the truth?" I asked. "We want peace," she said coldly. "And peace means not dragging your own blood into courts." That was the moment I realized I was alone in this. No one in his family would take my side. Not even with evidence. And yet, I wasn't backing down. I was emotionally drained. Betrayed by family. Dismissed by law enforcement. Gaslight by people who should have stood by me. And yet, I kept digging. I knew there was more to this. Rafi's desperation, the sudden boldness, the threats. It felt like the actions of a man with a lot to lose. And one morning, I found out what that was. It started with a message from a woman named Sarah. She reached out on Facebook saying, "You don't know me, but I think we've both been lied to by the same man." I nearly ignored it. I assumed it was spam or some mix-up. But something told me to reply. What she sent next made my blood run cold. She shared screenshots of conversations with Rafi. Flirtatious messages. Photos. Promises. He had told her he was single, that he was a tech entrepreneur, that his sister-in-law, me, worked for him and had stolen money from his business. She believed him until he ghosted her after asking for a small loan to cover a tax emergency. He had taken $12,000 from her and vanished. That's when she searched his name and found a Reddit post I had made anonymously in a scam victims group. "I put two and two together," she said. "That's when I knew I wasn't the only one." I couldn't breathe. He was running multiple scams. Financial fraud, emotional cons, identity theft. And the worst part? No one was stopping him. Until now. I asked Sarah if she'd be willing to speak to the police. She agreed. The next day, I walked into the station again, this time with more than just screenshots. I had a victim willing to testify. I had phone records. I had voice messages. I had a timeline that went beyond family drama. Detective Malik, who had barely taken me seriously before, now sat up straight as I laid everything out. "This is bigger than we thought," he admitted. "We may need to pull his full digital footprint." That evening, I went home feeling both validated and terrified. Because Rafi would know. And sure enough, that night he messaged me. "I don't know what game you're playing, but it ends now. You're gonna regret making this public." I didn't respond. Instead, I forwarded the threat to Detective Malik. The next morning, I received a call from Sarah. Her voice was shaking. "He just showed up at my apartment. I didn't tell him where I live. I think he followed me." My heart sank. She called the police, and thankfully, they arrived before anything escalated. But it was clear, Rafi was spiraling. The next few days were a blur. The police requested access to Rafi's devices. And that's when everything came crashing down. Emails. Dozens of aliases. Multiple victims, some local, some overseas. Fake investment schemes. Romance scams. Credit card fraud. Even a few attempts at blackmail. He wasn't just a petty thief. He was a serial con artist. My brother-in-law, the man who had sat at my dining table, laughed at my jokes, held my child, was a predator in disguise. I felt sick. My husband, who had stayed oddly silent through all this, was pale and trembling. "He's going to destroy our family name," he whispered. "No," I said firmly. "He already has." And then came the call. "Detective Malik, we're issuing a warrant. Your brother-in-law is officially under investigation for organized fraud." I felt the weight of that sentence in my bones. Finally, it was happening. But the feeling didn't last long because Rafi disappeared.
Gone.
No calls, no sightings, no activity on his social media or bank accounts. He had vanished. His disappearance was like a shadow cast over everything. For days, it felt like I was holding my breath. I checked the locks 3 times before sleeping. I glanced over my shoulder while walking home. I avoided going anywhere alone. Because Rafi wasn't just gone, he was on the run. And cornered animals are the most dangerous. Then one morning, I woke up to find a small brown envelope at my doorstep. No return address. Just my name, scrawled in messy, uneven handwriting. Inside, a flash drive. I didn't open it right away. My hands were trembling too much. I drove to a nearby cafe with public Wi-Fi, plugged in the drive using a borrowed laptop, and waited as the files loaded. And there it was. Videos. Screenshots. Recordings. Everything. Rafi had documented his cons like a twisted form of journaling, bragging about how gullible people were, laughing at how easily he manipulated them. And then came the worst part. A video labeled, "For her." I clicked it. He was sitting in what looked like a cheap motel room. His face was unshaven, eyes wild. He looked nothing like the confident, smirking man who once tried to steal from me. You think you've won, don't you? You and that pathetic little girl who thinks she's clever. But here's the truth. I never lose. I just wait. You've ruined everything. My family, my work, my name. And trust me, I'll make sure you feel that loss too. I shut the laptop. I could feel the bile rising in my throat. This was no longer just about money. This was personal. I went straight to the police with a flash drive. They were stunned. This is evidence gold, said one officer. He's basically confessed to half of it. Still, the fact remained he was still out there. Until 3 days later, I got a call at 1:17 a.m. A Border Patrol officer had flagged a man using a fake passport at the airport. He was trying to board a flight to Dubai. It was Rafi. They arrested him on the spot. I remember standing in the living room, barefoot, staring out the window at the rain when I got the news. For a moment, I felt nothing. Then everything came at once. Relief, exhaustion, sadness. It was over, or so I thought. Because now came the hardest part, confronting the truth head-on. The police gave me the option to attend the preliminary hearing. I said yes. Not for revenge. Not for spectacle. But because I needed to look him in the eyes and see if there was even a flicker of remorse. I sat in the courtroom, gripping my seat so tightly my knuckles turned white. And then he walked in, shackled,
Pale.
hollow-eyed, and smirking. That same arrogant smirk. The one that said, "You're not as clever as you think." Our eyes met. I didn't flinch. The hearing was brief. Charges were read, multiple counts of fraud, attempted identity theft, cybercrime, and harassment. The judge denied bail. As they led him away, he turned his head, just slightly. "You don't know what you've started," he whispered. But he was wrong. I knew exactly what I started. I started the end of him. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about the journey, how one suspicious invoice had unraveled an entire web of darkness. How I had almost given up. How people I loved had almost convinced me to stay silent.
But now?
Now, the silence was broken, and there was no going back. The day after the hearing, everything felt eerily calm.
Too calm.
The adrenaline had faded, but the ache remained, not just in my body, but deep inside my soul. Like someone had torn the fabric of what I once believed to be safe and stitched it back together, but wrong, somehow. I tried to go back to normal life. I really did. I cleaned the house, cooked meals, even binge-watched a light comedy series. But behind every laugh was a flicker of memory, of him, of the lies, of how close I came to being destroyed by someone I trusted like family. Everyone kept saying, "At least you're safe now." But was I? 2 weeks after the arrest, my sister came to visit me. Her face was pale, drawn, like she hadn't slept in days. She sat across from me at the kitchen table, holding her teacup like it was a life raft. "I didn't know," she whispered, "about any of it. He told me you were lying to break us apart. I wanted to believe you, but I loved him." I nodded, tears pricking the back of my eyes. "I know. I would have believed him too." She reached across the table and held my hand. It was the first time we'd truly connected since everything happened. Two women, scarred by the same man, finally seeing the full picture. And then she said something I'll never forget. "He left something behind. In the attic. You should see it." I froze. That attic hadn't been opened in months. We both went upstairs together, dust swirling as we cracked open the door. There, tucked beneath a loose floorboard, was a black leather notebook. Inside, a journal, written by Rafi. Every page was filled with his musings, not just about me, but others. Victims.
Plans.
Accounts. It was like diving into the mind of a sociopath. But one entry made my skin crawl. It was dated 3 days before his arrest. "She thinks she's won."
Let her think that.
But she doesn't know the backup exists. The second drive. The real one. The one I left in a place no one would dare look. There was no mention of where. Just a smiley face drawn beneath the words. I handed the journal to the authorities. A week later, I got a call from a detective. They'd found the second drive, buried in the dirt beneath a swing set at the park where he used to take my niece. And this one? It had names. Lots of names. Rafi wasn't just targeting me. He was part of a larger scam operation that spanned multiple cities. Fake charities. Investment schemes. Digital impersonation. He was just the tip of the iceberg. They used his files to bring down 3 more suspects. It turned out exposing him saved more people than I could ever have imagined. But even now, months later, I sometimes wake up in the middle of the night, heart pounding, ears straining for a sound that isn't there. That's the thing no one tells you about betrayal. It doesn't leave scars, it leaves phantoms. I still double-check every lock. I still side-eye strange packages. I still hesitate when someone asks too many personal questions. And yet, I'm stronger. Not invincible. Not healed. But stronger. Because I stood up. I spoke out. And I ended a cycle that could have destroyed countless lives. Sometimes people ask me if I'd do it all again, if I'd fight back knowing the cost. And my answer is always the same.
Yes.
1,000 times yes. Because staying silent lets monsters win. And I refuse to let evil wear a familiar face and walk away clean. But just when I thought the story was truly over, something strange happened. A letter arrived in the mail. No return address. Just a single sheet of paper with one sentence. He wasn't working alone. There was no signature. No clue who sent it. I called the detective. They opened an investigation. But nothing concrete has come from it yet. Still, sometimes I wonder, what if someone else is still out there? Someone watching, waiting, planning. Because when you shine a light on darkness, it doesn't always vanish. Sometimes it blinks and waits.